Hi, I'm Haley. I transitioned from working in childcare as well as customer service and project management to a .NET associate developer position, earning about $30,000 more in my job now. And today I think we're going to talk about how I did that, highlighting my experience and transferable skills with my former coach, Masha.
You just heard the voice of Haley, an alum of Merit America's Java development program. Welcome to another episode of Promoted, a podcast about leaving low-wage work for good. I'm Masha Finn, today's host and a Merit America coach. In this episode, we'll discuss the importance of communicating your experience and focusing on transferable skills to advance in your career. And I'll be talking to our learner, Haley, to help us understand better how that worked for them. Haley, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's so great to chat with you again.
Yeah, you too. Well, let's start with your background. Tell us where you were at professionally before you got to Merit America.
My story starts pretty early. I've always been a really big lover of school and education, and I was super passionate as a kid about learning. But I also didn't know until I was 28 that I had ADHD. So I was just sort of riding by the seat of my pants through adulthood. I got married early and my husband got sick. And so I was doing just whatever jobs that I could. I ended up working primarily in childcare as a nanny for a long time, and then eventually in some more office positions. And being sort of a Jack or Jill of all trades, I was able to gain a lot of additional experience because I was willing to just jump into a lot of things and further my professional development. But a big barrier in that was not having that bachelor's degree. And so after being in more corporate like management positions and project management positions, I heard about Merit America and I had had some small dabbling in coding when I was younger. And so I thought that I would give it a try. But yeah, primarily it was just whatever job I could find and excel at prior to this.
Has technology been a part of your career aspirations for a long time, or was it kind of new when you discovered Merit America?
I would almost say neither. I have always been really interested in technology, but I think that was more of a product of where technology was and the accessibility of technology was when I was going through sort of middle and high school. And so I was just, as a lover of learning things, I loved learning also about using the computer. And my parents growing up didn't know how to use the computer at all. So I was sort of the go-to tech person, even though I really didn't see myself like that. And I think a lot of people in my age bracket can relate, but I started coding with like MySpace, HTML, messing with my layouts and things like that. But I think also as a woman who was really good at a lot of things educationally, I was really pushed into a lot of humanities focused tracks. It's like, you're great at science and math and English, but oh, be an English teacher. So STEM was never really pushed towards me, which I roll my eyes at a little bit now. But yeah, it wasn't really anything that I thought about doing until much later on, because I just didn't think it was something that I could do.
So unfortunate what you're describing, sort of the inclination for folks to say, these are the areas that you should be going into. So I wonder what kind of prompted you to explore Java with Merit America? What got you to the point where you were like, I'm going to apply for this program?
So I think a lot of different things, right? I was finding a barrier in my professional life just because I didn't have that paper. And the funny thing is, I would meet people, I would interview, and they would be like, it's so strange to me that you don't have more formal education. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's what happens with life sometimes. And in 2019, before the pandemic, I had started to think of either going back to school, but I wasn't sure if I could afford it, or looking into like a certificate program for something. And it must have been at the end of the first year of the pandemic in 2020. I saw a video from V from Under the Desk News, which I think is a lot of people's introduction to Merit America. And they were stitching someone who had been, I think, like an oil worker or something. And they were just talking about how difficult it was on their body. And that was sort of my introduction. I applied later that week. And after that, it was kind of a rush.
Yeah. Well, as you're talking about your previous experience too, and kind of what brought you to explore Merit America, just want to reflect a little bit on transferable skills. So, just for the folks listening, transferable skills are your all-purpose skills that you can use in different situations. So, for instance, as a waiter, you may be great at multitasking, staying organized, and providing top-notch customer service. If you want to transition to a new role in tech, you can still apply those skills, right? Juggling tasks, managing projects, communicating effectively with your team and your clients. So communicating your experience and highlighting transferable skills is absolutely pivotal to career advancement and especially to career transition. So Haley, I remember when you started your Merit America program, you came in with a ton of experience. I mean, you'd been working in operations, you'd been a manager, but your experience wasn't necessarily in tech. So, what aspects of your prior experience gave you that confidence to pursue a career in tech or to see the ways that you could apply your experience to a future in technology?
To be honest, at first, I didn't think I could do it. I applied and was like, maybe this will work. I don't know. I was really intimidated, but I was going through this period in my life where I was having to learn how to trust myself. I had sort of a really difficult upbringing, and it has taken a lot of my adult life to really be able to trust myself. And so I just sort of jumped in. I knew that one of the things that I'm really known for from my friends is like, if you need to know something, ask Haley, because if Haley doesn't know, they will find out and get you the answer. And at the end of the day, I'm a year into working as a developer, and that's really the best skill that I think that you can have is just a desire to find information. And I also really wanted to be a journalist growing up. So I already sort of had that drive of research and digging deep. As far as my professional journey prior and why I think I came into Merit America as solid, I think professionally on the communication and like networking side of things, it was just because I forced myself to learn how to do that. In a couple of my positions, I had the opportunity to sort of volunteer for more professional engagement and not necessarily more pay for that, but it was something that I was just interested in. And so when I was working once for a smaller like family owned business, I had the opportunity to join a networking group called BNI, Business Network International. And it was basically just a group of professionals in a room referring other businesses to your business and sort of talking about what your business was. And that was a really big masterclass for me in my early to mid 20s and learning just how to be around other professional people and how to speak in that professional setting.
How cool. And the networking piece, I mean, I remember how valuable that was to your own career journey in terms of finding the position you're in now. Can you speak to that a little bit? How networking kind of helped you navigate into this role? Because I think that skill set that you're describing about being able to be in a room with other professionals and kind of being aware of networking opportunities and how to leverage them, I think that's a transferable skill that we don't talk about enough. So I'm really grateful that you brought that up.
I think something I really noticed in my group, my cohort, was really the difference in finding that first position was down to networking. So for me, I'm still not the strongest coder out of my cohort, but I just hit the ground running with that networking. And something that I really dug into my brain and tried to dig into my peers' brain is everybody feels awkward, especially in the beginning. You're not going to feel comfortable. Your hands might shake. You might be really obviously nervous, but pushing through that is the only thing that's really going to get you that skill, right? And so I just had to tell myself, everyone feels this way. It might not seem like it, but you don't know these people, so you don't know what they're going to look like when they're nervous either. And just pushing through that and practicing it. Practice does help you gain that skill and become more comfortable and put you in a position to hone that skill. And really, at the end of the day, I knew that my ability in communicating was going to be a better entry to finding that first position because I didn't necessarily have the resume of somebody graduating with a computer science degree coming into that perspective, I guess.
And could you walk us through how you networked? Like what you did to leverage some of those communication skills and networking skills to find the role that you're in now?
For me, it was listening to the program instructions and also, listening to your advice, Masha. I thank you a lot for helping me guide me in my networking journey, which really helped me find the role that I'm in now. But it is honest, right? Like I talked to you in our meetings about wanting to do more local networking, and you helped me find some local networking groups, specifically for like women in technology. And that was what led me to get the position that I have today. I was able to go to a networking event at a university. I had asked the university, hey, are y'all open to like career transitioners, people who may not be from that educational background? And they were like, yeah, of course. So I went to some events. I helped plan some of their events. And at one of those events, I met someone from the company that I currently work at who ended up being the director of the department that I ended up interviewing for, which I did not know at the time. And so they initially interviewed me actually for a business analyst role because of my professional background, and eventually just made an entry level position because they didn't typically hire entry level developers. They had a good program for like internships and things like that, but not for full-time employees. I did really great in my interviews. They were just hesitant about my lack of technical experience because they were looking for people really solid in like .NET Framework, Microsoft products, or Salesforce. And I just wasn't there yet, right? Because I had just come out of my program. And so it took probably 6 months of interviews until I actually got hired and started, but it was really worth it because the company that I've been working for is just a really solid company for a beginner. And my transferable skills have really helped, especially in the developer world where not every developer is really good at communication. And sometimes I've noticed, we have meetings with other parts of the business and the developers get a little bit lost in the technical aspect. And I'm able to actually step in often and sort of simplify that communication for people and say, hey, let me sort of frame this in a way that you may understand better because you don't have that really big technical experience, because that's really going to help our relationship with these other parts of the business. And that's been almost invaluable to my department, which I feel really happy about.
That's wonderful. Did you find that as you were interviewing for opportunities with this company, that that was a way that you were able to kind of angle yourself or market yourself, kind of leaning on those communication skills that you brought in from your previous roles?
Absolutely. I mean, I think in this situation, it was really good because the company was really primed to accept a person like me coming in, right? They can utilize my other skills, my transferable skills, while also mentoring me. Again, because they had a really good history of having interns. There's a lot of people in my department that started as interns in high school or college and became full-time employees, or they come back every year as they're finishing school. And so they had a really good setup for building their talent. And that was something that they really talked a lot about in my interview process. Is we have people that have been working in the construction side of this company who are now in the technology side. And it's because we just decided, hey, you're amazing. We know you know so much about our business. We think you'd be great in this role. We're going to put the time and resources into making sure that like you're going to be successful in this other position because we think you'd thrive there. So really the company was really primed for someone like me, but I was also really like, hey, I'm a great communicator. What I lack in technological experience, I will make up for in my drive for knowledge and understanding. And I'll also be proactive in that communication. And I do think that that was really important in finding that position.
And it clearly worked because they were able to develop an entry-level role where they hadn't had one before. So I often reflect on that experience that you had, and I think it's very motivating to other learners in our program to know that that's possible. So I love hearing that story. It's thrilling, I think.
I really appreciate it.
And I'm curious if you have any advice that you would give to someone who's struggling to recognize their transferable skills or struggling to find a way to communicate them as they navigate the job search.
Yeah, I think that my advice is the same advice I would have given, at the end of my program. Practice. You're never going to just magically wake up one day and be more comfortable talking about yourself and hyping yourself up. I think especially women career transitioners, they're much less likely to apply for roles when they don't feel like they fit that full bill of what that job description is asking for or what those requirements are. And so I just had to tell myself, push through that uncomfortableness, practice. I spent a lot of time with peers in my personal life, peers in the program, just sitting down with each other and talking and moving through that uncomfortable feeling. Because at the end of the day, the vast majority of graduates from any kind of program are not going to be getting jobs at big places like Google or Meta right out of whatever program they're doing, whether that is traditional education or something like Merit America. And the thing that's going to make you shine is going to be your ability to communicate and sell yourself. And so even if you do feel unconfident, force yourself to practice and sit in that uncomfortable space. And once you get more comfortable, it will be more comfortable in those situations where you're having to sell yourself in that interview.
Such great advice. And Haley, what helped you recognize your own transferable skills and how you could hone in on the ones that would be particularly useful or appealing to the positions where you were applying?
Yeah, I mean, I think I came in with a lot of knowledge that my transferable skills would help me because they had already really helped me in my professional life up to that point. But it was also a little bit of bullying from my peers and, even people like you, Masha, of being like, Haley, you're doing amazing. I don't know why you think you aren't. And so some of it was just like reaching out for that feedback and also having people say like, hey, I don't know why you don't think that you're good at this, but you're great. So, try to hone your confidence a little bit more and feel more solid in that. But really, the only reason that I am good at the things that I am good at when it comes to communication is because I've pushed myself, like I talked about that BNI experience. That was totally voluntary. It was just a really good opportunity for me because I was going to be getting additional pay if I made sales. But I mean, those first, I don't know, 6 months when I would have to stand up and talk about myself and the company that I was working for were so uncomfortable and miserable. But the only reason that I've gotten to the point I am today is just I pushed myself into those situations and really had to learn how to sit with that uncomfortable feeling and move through it.
So, getting feedback from others, recognizing some of those strengths in yourself, even if you're feeling, I don't know if it's humble or modest or just nervous about accepting your strengths. I think that's a big part of it. And then it also sounds like pushing yourself, getting yourself into those situations where you're going to have to market yourself and talk about yourself. Even if it doesn't feel good, it's good practice. So I think those are excellent pieces of advice. We always love hearing about career growth of our learners. So tell us more about what you're doing now and what has changed as a result of this new role that you've taken on.
Yeah. So interestingly enough, like my previous roles, I am sort of becoming jack of all trades again. Technically, my position is not a front end development position, it's more of a back end. Masha, you'll know this, but listeners won't, that I do prefer front end. And I really did prefer front end when I was in my program in Merit America. But I also really want to be a strong full stack engineer. So I wasn't specifically only looking for front end positions because I wanted to grow that skill set. So now I'm working with senior developers on my team who are .NET and also working on like server migration projects with our Azure team. But I'm also working on more of a front end Microsoft SharePoint and also Power Apps. I also have some more senior developers who are in that space. And so I'm sort of working with both of those teams, which has been really awesome because it gives me sort of a greater picture of our scope of business.
And what has changed for you outside of the workspace, like other elements of your life? Has anything changed for you since you took on this new position?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm able to have a living wage, which is amazing. My husband has been really sick and disabled and really can't work. So I've always been the primary earner in our home, and that has been really difficult, especially in a place where I live in Texas, where minimum wage is still $7.25 an hour, I think. So, yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is I can pay my bills and it's amazing to see the changes in my life just from stress. I mentioned previously earlier that I did just get an ADHD diagnosis a couple of years ago. And, I have really great health insurance. I'm able to go to the doctor when I need to go to the doctor, which seems like a given for some people, but I think it's something that we don't realize how big of a hurdle it can be for some people who are living in those financial places where they're having to make those decisions of, do I go to the doctor this month or do I pay my rent on time? And that was really where I was at before Married America.
So grateful to hear that you're in a place where you feel stable and that there's accessible medical options for you. I totally agree that it's wild how many people in our country are faced with those decisions that you're describing. And I'm glad to hear that that's changed for you and your family. Looking ahead, what's next for you in your career? Are there any steps that you're looking ahead to or goals or aspirations you're aiming for?
Yeah. So personally, my goals are to be a much more solid backend engineer. And I am super grateful that I have the opportunity to work with so many really solid, more senior developers at my job. We also work with a wide network of even contractors. And that's awesome because I do get some insight from people who are coming from different technical backgrounds than me as well. I think I would really like to, in the next maybe 3 years, not be in an entry-level position. I've had the opportunity already to move into more of a maybe developer relations role or more of an analyst role. And I'm really pushing myself to stay in this more independent contributor space and build out my technical skills, because at the end of the day, I know my professional skills are pretty high there. I know that I'll do great in an analyst position, but I don't want to lose that technical scope. And I really feel like longevity for my career, getting more deep into the technology is more important for me than maybe being in more of a management position earlier on, because I've been in management positions. I don't know that I would even want to manage developers, to be completely honest. But yeah, so for me, it's putting my head down, focusing, getting really deep into those technical skills, and then seeing where that can take me later on. Because I know networking wise, when my technical skills are more solid and that is less intimidating to me, I could pretty much do whatever I want.
I love that. One of Married America's values is learn constantly, and you embody that so well. Just your drive to continue learning, even if some of it is really hard and not going the easy route. I think that's something that I notice about you, that you really embrace the discomfort and the growth, and that is so valuable as a growing developer and as someone who has been in a career transition. And I'm really excited to see where your career takes you, Haley. Is there anything else that you want to share? Is there anything we didn't cover that you'd want to talk about?
I think the only thing that I wanted to maybe bring up is just to remind people that things like this take time. You're going to gain professional skills, you're going to gain technical skills, and you're still going to need to continue to hone those skills once you're done. It's not just attend Merit America, and it's not like that for university either. It's not attend university and then you're never learning again. I have a really good friend who graduated top of her class from an Ivy League school who works at Microsoft, and even she is like, I am constantly learning things. She's moving to another department so that she can learn more about a technology that she's interested in. And those are going to be things that are going to be anybody coming into the field from whatever background is going to be experiencing. And so just really look for opportunities and push yourself and have confidence and fake the confidence sometimes when you have to, and you'll find something.
That's wonderful advice. Thanks for sharing your insights on communicating your experience and honing in on those transferable skills as you navigate the job search. I know that your experiences and all of your excellent advice will undoubtedly help others on their career journeys. To our listeners, if you found value in Haley's insights and want to learn more about leveraging your experience and transferable skills, make sure to visit our website at www.meritamerica.org. With that, we conclude this episode of Promoted. Until next time.